How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Uh, I'm fine. I took a 4-day weekend,
Oh,
so
okay.
because I worked all those extra shifts, uh, so I decided,
Taking a long weekend?
I mean, normally I work 4 10-hour days,
Yeah.
or sometimes 48 hours, 48 hours. So it's like 12-hour days. So like 6 to 6 or 12 to 12, something like that. But today, this week, I was like, shit, I worked all those extra shifts. I was like, normally I'm in my office just bullshitting. But today, I had to actually, you know, this
Yeah.
month, I had to actually do a lot of shit. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
fun. It was not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, since you're here and it's pretty much that time, we'll just get started. So, Los Kenoshi Bonito here with another project console. Title of this episode is Napkin Math. So, before we get into our topics, let's want to introduce yourself.
Yo, it's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. Glad to be on another cast.
Glad to have you. Um, so, some big Sony news again this week. Jim Ryan is retiring. He's leaving the company in, I think around March, April, somewhere around that time. Sony announced this. Um, that was last week. Sony announced it, and and yeah, there's some people that are happy about it, and then there's some people that obviously don't care, and then there's some people that are upset about it. Um, Jim Ryan is a fairly controversial figure in the game sphere. He has that whole FTC battle. Um, you know, he also had some of the price hikes, the PlayStation price hike. You have the raising the the price of the console in some regions, and then raising the price of PlayStation Plus, which upset practically everyone, understandably, as well as raising game prices from $60 to $70 a piece. And yeah, what do you think of this? What do you think? Do you know anything about the new CEO that they're putting? Uh,
I know they have a guy that they're basically like, well, he's the interim guy until we choose a main guy.
yeah,
Um, I'll tell you what I know. Jim Ryan has basically he came in writing on the tail end. He ushered in the PS5,
yeah,
and the only reason the PS5 has sold a lot was because Microsoft fucked up last gen
yep,
and Nintendo fucked up last gen.
yeah,
Because I have not seen anything that makes me say, "Oh, this is a great console"
yeah, yeah, and
with the
that,
PS5. Conversely, I can also say the same thing about the Switch.
yeah,
I mean, I can say a lot of things. It's like no one has really revitalized themselves except for maybe Microsoft.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's you know, the PlayStation 5 was coming off of the hype of the PS4. A lot of that stuff from the PS4 was backwards compatible with the PS5. And of course, you could pay for, certain games got free upgrades, while other games you had to pay for, an upgrade to the,
Upgrade to
yeah,
your upgrade.
yeah. Essentially, you had to some games, move the sliders a little to the right, and it was free, and then there were some games that you had to pay an extra fee for them to move the sliders to the right. So, so yeah, which I think is just absolutely,
Bullshit.
yeah, BS. Um, but so it's coming off that hype. A lot of people bought a PS4 because of what Nintendo and Microsoft were doing. Wasn't necessarily they weren't lighting the world on fire, and
Well,
people were stuck with a PS4. They didn't know why they got it except for the pure hype.
because they fucked up.
Yeah, yeah. I
I mean,
remember.
like the reason that the PlayStation sold was because, um, you know, the PS4 sold was because Microsoft fucked up and Nintendo fucked up.
I remember, there were controversial, there. I mean, not contra. There were critically acclaimed games on the PS4. Um, I might not have was were blown away by them, but the games people liked on it, so it wasn't, it wasn't a paperweight. Uh,
No, no. When you like, basically, if the way consumers saw it, and I can understand it, is they basically said Microsoft wants to um, control how I play my games with always online. Fuck that. The Wii U is a joke. Fuck that. But I can get a PS4 and I can play with my friends.
yeah,
I mean,
ultimately,
that's basically what happened.
I mean, when it comes to Microsoft and Sony, I mean, you pretty much go where your friends are going because it's just because they're practically the same platform. And
Yeah.
before people scream about Sony exclusives and how great they are, nobody buys their exclusives compared to the
No.
third-party outings that are on the console. More people end up buying those. So it's obviously people are going where their friends are going, and not where the
Yeah, they want to
exclusives
play with their
are at.
friends because we have a lot of people who they don't know how to like have fun with people, but they like to play video games with their friends.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, they can go online and play games with their friends. And that's for them that's enjoyable. Now, me personally,
and
that
Nintendo's a
doesn't do
dime,
shit for me, but to each his own.
and Nintendo's obviously a diamond in the rough when it comes to this because they fostered their exclusives for years. I mean, you got Zelda, Mario, and Metroid. They're like 30, 40 years old at this point. They've been around for a while. So these
I
are
mean,
super.
The Legend of Zelda is 1 year younger than I am.
Yeah, yeah,
It's literally 36 years old.
yeah,
Mario is like 39, 38. Well, technically, Mario, the arcade game, the first game with Mario came out in like 83, 82.
yeah,
So Mario is like 40 something. Okay.
yeah,
Nintendo has old ass IPs that they've built for years. Sony does not have that. Everything Sony does is just copy other people's shit. They are not an original company.
yeah, yeah.
Originality is not their thing.
Yeah, they don't have like those particular IPs that they fostered for years, and people all
No,
the IPs that people point to didn't Sony didn't own those IPs. I mean, look how they botched up the PlayStation, the micro PlayStation system that they
the
came out with.
PlayStation Mini.
Yeah, the
Sorry,
PlayStation Mini.
PlayStation Classic.
Yeah, well, how they screwed that up. So it's just
Oh yeah, they screwed that up all right.
Yeah,
It was awe inspiring. I'm like, how do you mess up such a simple, like that was an easy layup,
yeah.
and they messed that up. It was like all you had to do was just slide that in there, and they couldn't even do that. Like, nah, bruh, nah, no, we can't do that. We
I
gotta
know.
mess that up.
I know. People will be like, when it comes to Jim Ryan get credit for ushering in the PlayStation 5, but there really wasn't a lot of work that needed to be done compared to say
No,
Microsoft and Sony or Microsoft and Nintendo, because people were already high off the PS4. I mean, all they had to do was just show up with the pizza. Like,
yeah, it was functionally free pizza.
yeah. So it's just there wasn't there wasn't it wasn't I'm not surprised the PlayStation 5 did well. I don't think anybody in their right mind should be surprised that the PlayStation 5 came out doing fairly well. That is, if you could find one at the time. And I guess in some places it's still kind of hard to find. But
I mean, the thing about the PlayStation that I've noticed, this is just my own personal opinion. The thing about the PlayStation that I've noticed is this. The brand, right, is that Sony basically sticks. Sony has no resilience. They don't stick with shit. They
yeah,
basically stick with something until it stops its flags, and instead of nurturing it to keep it going, they just abandon it and move on, right? Like the reason the PlayStation brand got big in Japan is that Sony basically took a page out of Nintendo's book and basically made themselves the RPG platform, right? And they essentially in Japan, because you're not taking Japan if you don't have JRPGs on your system. And Sony basically locked up all those JRPG houses: Square Enix, Atlas, Squaresoft, Enix, Atlas, like every JRPG house. Anyone who could make a JRPG was only putting their shit on the PlayStation, right?
yeah, yeah,
And Sony themselves put money into PlayStation development with, Legend of Dragoon, which a lot of people like that game. I always felt it was kind of underwhelming, but I can see why people like it. Okay,
yeah,
so all that shit comes out, and what does Sony do? Um, once they don't think they're making enough money on the shit, they start abandoning JRPG houses.
yeah,
You went from having a lot of JRPGs coming out to little to none.
yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that happened under Jim Ryan. Actually, I think it happened under the last
No, it started under
PC.
King the other guy.
Yeah, like this has been something. This has been a disease that has been spreading throughout the last few leaders, where a bunch of Japanese studios just get shuttered, or they just abandon the
They abandoned their
Japanese market
IPs.
altogether. Altogether,
Yeah,
yeah,
they basically said we don't see a future in this market, so we're just gonna move the fuck on.
yeah,
Now, there's nothing wrong with. I mean, like, look, man. When you're running a business, you got to do what's good for your business. But the fact that we went from, like, I remember back in the day, like Square Enix. Okay, you were getting 3 Final Fantasies per console gen. You know how
yeah.
many Final Fantasies we've gotten over the last few years?
Let's see. We have we had that Final Fantasy 13 trilogy, which we're just gonna count as one IP. It's just
Which doesn't
yeah,
count.
yeah, yeah. It's
Okay,
just
because
simple.
Final Fantasy 13 began life as something else. So did Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah,
We got
yeah.
one Final Fantasy game.
No, that was Final Fantasy 7 remake or Final Fantasy 16. I don't know if I'm gonna count 7 remake because that's obviously a reimagining of an old IP. It's still it's still
It's a
retreading an
remake.
old IP. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
retreading an
it's
old
not a
IP.
new game.
Yeah,
Okay, it's not something made from scratch using with new ideas. Okay, we got Final Fantasy 16, which I mean, like that game sold what 10, 12 million, and it's considered a failure
Yeah,
by Square Enix. Could you
yeah,
imagine such bullshit? Like, I wish I sold like I wish I sold 10 million of a product at $60 a pop.
yeah. And 70. That game was $70 out the game. Um,
Okay, 70.
yeah. So yeah, so Jim Ryan's also known to, like we just mentioned earlier, close down a bunch of studios as well as the previous administrations uh, closing
Well, he
down.
just kept doing what they already started, really.
Yeah, yeah, he was
It
already
wasn't like he was the progenitor of a new age at Square Enix.
or Sony. Um,
Sorry, it's Sony, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's just like I mean, it's gonna be business as usual when the new guy comes in. Like, if you think anything's gonna just radically change, radically shift, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you.
I got some land in China to sell you. Well, I mean, basically, the sad thing about all of this is that Jim Ryan did exactly what he was told to do by the board
Yeah,
of the directors. Board of directors run by the previous, one of the new guys who came to that board is one of the guys who is the guy who was the CEO before Jim Ryan. Basically, like, they saw the writing on the wall. Look, they cannot, Sony gave up Japan, all right? And they decided we have to pivot to another market.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know people, and I know certain people that are super sore about that.
What they left the Japanese market.
Yeah, because a lot of people, their first JRPG experience was on the original OG PlayStation or PS2, and
I mean, like I said, those were the RPG systems.
yeah,
The only reason I bought a PlayStation back in the day was for the JRPGs because there were practically none. There were no JRPGs on the N64.
yeah, yeah,
And I know what some people are going to say, but Paper Mario. Look, listen, okay. I'm not gonna belabor this point, okay. I'm not gonna argue with anybody, but let me let you in on a little secret, okay. No matter how much you may uh,
Paper Mario.
love Paper Mario or those games, look, all right. PlayStation had a lot of way more JRPGs
Yep,
than Nintendo had.
yep.
And if you love JRPGs, which I did, I grew up on JRPGs,
You had to get a PlayStation.
you had to get a PlayStation or wait till you got the shittiest of shitty ports on
PC.
on PC.
Yeah,
That's all you had. That's what we had back then.
yeah. But I mean, since then, since Sony fumbled the ball with the JRPGs, which maybe their math wizards had a reason. Now
I
now
mean,
they're on
they didn't so much
PC.
fumble the ball as just they realized that they lost the Japanese market. It wasn't worth fighting for it because JRPGs are expensive.
Yeah,
They're expensive to develop. You got to put a lot of resources in it, and they were just like, it's not worth it.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
don't agree with it. I love JRPGs, but I mean, I'm also, I'm not one of those people who thinks that everything needs to cater just to me, because that's some juvenile shit.
yeah,
Um, like, there's tons of people, and they all want to play games, and they all have what they like, and if you make shit that's generally acceptable to a lot of people, you'll have more success than if you just make shit that's acceptable to just like, a very small niche audience, which is what we've been getting for many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
You know. Now, am I gonna lie and say I didn't love the JRPGs? I did. I still love JRPGs, but I'm also not gonna be like, oh, this multi-billion-dollar company needs to cater to me and nobody but me,
Yeah.
because that's ignorant.
Yeah. But what happened? What do you think happened? Why did they lose? How did they lose the Japanese market? I would have said it started at the
Because
PS3 era when they
no,
attempted
it
to
was the
reach it.
PS2.
Do you think it's the
No, it was the
PS2?
PS2. Think about it, man. When the PS2 first launched, they still were supporting JRPGs. Matter of fact, some of the best JRPGs of the sixth gen came out in the early to mid to late PS2 generation. But towards the mid end of the PS2, when they started the PS3, Sony started losing a lot of money with the PS3 because people weren't buying it. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the money that they used to put into supporting these like mid tier, single tier JRPG developers had to go into making their own shit for the PS3 and those deals they cut with all those third party studios. So you
Yeah.
started to see like less support for those Japanese style esoteric niche games.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there. So they had to do what they had to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
I'm not one of those people who's like, oh my god. Once again, we're all adults here, and not everything is going to cater to you. The world doesn't revolve around you, and if you think it does, I got you're in for a surprise.
compared to the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation, and the PlayStation 2. It seemed like that seventh generation was a bit. It seemed like a bit of a desert when it came to JRPGs and Japanese style games in general, unless it was Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
But
I
it was
mean, but
like,
the thing is that there are a lot of JRPGs for the PlayStation. The problem with the PlayStation, the PS1, is that like basically the quality control wasn't there.
yeah,
Like there were more JRPGs for the PlayStation than the SNES, but like out of if there was like 150 JRPGs on the PlayStation, only about for the modern average consumer, only about 10 of those got played.
yeah,
Of those 10, like 7 of them were Final Fantasy games or re-releases. So you had like Final Fantasy Chronicles, which was Final Fantasy 5 and Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger, because a lot of people didn't get those games when Final Fantasy 5 never came to America, and Chrono Trigger was a late SNES game, so that game didn't really get the sales it could have gotten. Then you had Seiken Densetsu, the Secret of Mana game that no one liked. Then you had Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9.
so pretty much all Square Enix games.
Yeah,
And the
those were the
occasional,
games that people
yeah,
bought because they were SquareSoft, because this is before they were Square
Squaresoft,
Enix.
yeah,
SquareSoft
Squaresoft.
games. Then maybe I think the second tier that sold well was maybe Dragon Quest 8. Sorry, Dragon Quest 7. Because that's in Japan, Dragon Quest was still a thing. But it's such a small niche.
Yeah, yeah.
That it wasn't gonna happen.
You can't
I
sell,
mean, it's amazing they were able to do what they were able to do, but it just.
I mean, with the PS3 and 360 generation, that was the era where you needed to sell like 10 million games to make a make a profit or to be set.
Yeah.
Remember when Tomb Raider 2013 came out and it sold like 6 million copies and Square Enix was like, this game's a failure. It's like,
Yeah, it didn't make enough money. It's like if something sold 10 million copies, not a million, 10 million copies. You're just not good enough.
That's insane. Like budget, it was the era where it was the beginning where budgets were getting seriously out of control.
I mean,
It's just,
it started once the HD generation came. because you had to spend so much time going over those graphics to make them look good and optimizing code in order to get the game to run smoothly. It's like, it was unsustainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey,
I don't.
you know, we all made it. Everyone made it.
But Jim Ryan's gonna be out soon, and nothing's gonna change. So,
Yeah, yeah.
don't
Like
hold your
people who are
breath.
acting like some people are acting like, oh man, this means something amazing is gonna happen. I'm like, no, not really.
Yeah, well, just chill. Just don't hold your breath. You're gonna be holding it for a long time. You might either pass out or die. So,
Yeah, yeah. I was about to say that you're gonna pass out or die. Those are your choices.
yeah,
Because like I said, it's like it's like everyone who's like, Phil Spencer, he's our man, and then all that shit came out about the shit that Phil Spencer was talking about. I was like, oh yeah, he's a piece of shit, like just like the rest of them. He just is better at showing his public face is better.
yeah, yeah. In any case, ballooning prices, um, all the money probably just going to the top. Let's talk about Epic Games.
Oh
Epic Ga-
yes,
Epic Games, 16
Timmy boy.
cut 16% of their employees, which is almost around 1,000 employees. So that's a big freaking company. So
That's a big chunk.
you got these CEOs lining their pockets, getting billions, giving themselves raises, cutting people out of the, you know, cutting a whole bunch of people out of the picture. So maybe they can uh, maybe they can buy their third yacht. I don't know. I also heard something else. It had to do with Fortnite and this new program that they're having, where people can make these islands and get a cut of the profits. And another thing that the problem with this is people are exploiting this, which, duh, who would have seen this coming? So you have that problem because they're not growing anymore, because the problem with these live service games is you got to keep growing. You can't just
Well,
stop growing.
you have to consistently provide content, and the thing
Yeah,
is that's expensive, and Fortnite is an ebb and boom type of it's an ebb and boom type of thing. Like until someone unlocks more stuff, it's just always going to be like, you know, like it goes down, and then they release more shit, and they just don't have the wherewithal or the means to do it.
yeah, yeah. And so
But no
yeah,
one's surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, look, uh, like here's the way the tech industry works. Okay, if one big corporation starts firing people, they all start firing people.
yeah, yeah, and it's pretty crazy. It's like, it's just like, why don't these CEOs just take a pay cut, use these resources that they would have used, they would have had, and I don't know, make products that people want to buy instead of just
See, that's where you messed up, man. You're asking these douchebags to take a pay cut so that the people under them can survive. The hell's wrong with you, man? You
like,
know these people aren't gonna do that shit.
yeah, yeah,
They're never gonna do that shit.
no, they would make too much sense, and we can only make dollars, not cents. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
all about look. How are these people going to pay for their? How are these people going to pay for their how are these people going to pay for their yacht? How are they going to pay for their yacht if they take a pay cut in order to make sure they have workers and people who can make this shit so that it can make money? What's wrong with you, man? How dare you, sir?
How are they gonna pay for all those sugar babies that are on the yacht? Yeah, it's like I can't.
You know, I mean, I don't know about the sugar yet. I'm just saying, how are they gonna afford all this shit when they gotta afford all this other shit? They don't have time. They don't have money or time to be doing all that other. What's wrong with you, man? Why? See, you're trying to see. It's like you care about the people who make the shit. They don't care about the people who make the shit.
Nope. So get out. Yeah, but these live service games are dying. Sega is canceling a bunch of shit.
Yeah, they canceled the whole game. That was kind of funny. I was like, the game, like, and when I saw the game, I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. They canceled it.
Yeah.
Canceled the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
I was like, for real? You just go hyenas or whatever it was called?
Yeah, hyenas.
I'm like, this actually looks kind of interesting. Shit. Sega was like, yeah, this looks like it's not gonna make any money, so fuck it. I was like, God damn.
Yeah, yeah, it's just kind of like, maybe it's time to make single player games again, guys. Maybe it's time to cut back on all these it's time to cut back on resources. Focus more on art style, gameplay systems.
Here's what I'm gonna say.
Large cinematic experiences.
I do think that there's room for multiple live service games, but here's what these companies don't understand. Okay, there is only room for only like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
You can't. Everyone's like, I want to make a live service game. Not everyone can make a fucking live. Look, listen, okay? People have X amount of time to do anything, okay? Yeah. People only have so much time. They cannot just, like, have... You cannot legitimately expect people to have all that time to do all that other stuff. You just can't. You cannot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's everybody wants that big chunk. Everybody wants that, you know. They want a big slice. They don't want a small slice of the pie. They want, you know, in reality.
Well, that's what they do. But this is where Napkin Math comes in, because they want a piece of the pie. They want a small slice of the pie, not realizing the one most important aspect. It takes time to bake and make a pie. It takes time to eat a pie. Now, here's the thing, okay? If you have, let's say, let's look at it like this, okay? Let's say, hypothetically speaking, let's say, like, what are the big multiplayer live service games? Fortnite, Overwatch, Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you've got Nintendo with Splatoon, but that's its own thing over there in the corner. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got these 5 games. Okay. I mean, you've got these 3 games.
Yeah.
People only have time. The people who play those games only have time to play one of those games at any given time.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you don't immediately grab a new audience, like someone's like, "Oh, I'm going to try it out." If you can't immediately, if your game is built around over monetization and making people so, like making the game so difficult that you have to spend money. People got to spend real money just to play their stuff. Then there you go.
Yeah.
That's why games. Why do you think all these live service games because there's the sunk cost fallacy where people are like, well, I mean, I've already put like $300 into this game over the last 3-4 years, and I play it with my friends, and I've gotten my gamer score up to a certain point in the game. Like I've unlocked so much shit. It's hard to jump into something else where you're starting as a scrub all over again, and you got no money, and your character sucks. I mean, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you come out with, you come out gimped, you practically come out neutered. uh, and you gotta grind to put down some money to get your character to where you want them to be, and to get to a competitive level. Um, I mean, it's not like Fortnite, did a pretty decent job about that. You had also, you know, some of Valve's games like Team Fortress and Counter Strike, where a lot of the stuff is just cosmetic. It wasn't just pure like, um, it wasn't pure just like pay to win. But then you had Destiny, which was pretty egregious with its microtransactions. Uh, there's some, you know, a lot of these other games were in the past were pretty egregious with their microtransactions, where it was pay to win. Even some of the games you had to pay for. Call of Duty, you actually have to pay for that game, and it's been really greasy with their microtransactions over the years. Uh,
yep.
uh,
And it just got worse
yeah.
because they got
Live
greedier
service
and greedier and greedier.
And a lot of these live service games that come out, it seems like they get announced and then they're gone in like 6 months. I know, there was at least a couple earlier this year that weren't even out for a complete year. They're gone. They're just now shut down. Um, you know, so. Um, so, there's this, is there anything else you'd like to say about this before we go on to the next topic?
No, the only other thing I'll say is this is the world we live in.
Yeah. Yep.
This is the world we live in. This is why games are the way they are. And the sooner people understand that, the more they'll realize that, none of these companies are your friends.
Yeah.
All right? People need to understand that shit. None of these companies, I repeat, are your friend.
Yeah.
All right? They don't give a fuck about you.
No, they do not.
They don't care about you. They don't like you. They are not your friends. You mean nothing to them.
Yeah. Anyway, Analogue Pocket came out with another version of their handheld this week, and they like to, or they have been, create FOMO. So they created a pre-order campaign. Started at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Well, most people are at work, and so they're like, "Oh, get this limited edition," and people were trying to get it, and the website crashed, and then a bunch of them just ended up on eBay for 2 to 3 times the price.
Yeah, because the people who are resellers, scalpers, they have bots that they use to buy that shit early. And then they, like, as soon as the thing opens, they're on there. And human reflexes are not faster than an algorithm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is that there were legit people. There should have been things in place to keep people from buying multiples of these, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that was the problem. Is I've heard, I was listening to a video about it, and it's just like, it's like there should be better. I mean, at this point, because they've been doing this for, years. It's been really,
analog. Yeah.
yeah, and they've been like this whole scalping thing has been it's been a problem for a while, but it ramped up during 2020, and there should be some kind of safeguards put in place. So
I mean, you would think, but there won't be.
yeah, yeah, it's just you know if you're gonna create a if you're gonna create a product, at least instead of having um, have at least a pre-order. Uh, a pre-order to at least scale the amount of consoles that you're gonna make, rather than just like, well, limited quantities create FOMO,
I
and
would
then
say that, and also you have to put earnest money down, and it's tied like the earnest money has to be tied to a physical person. So you can only buy one or two, and they
yeah,
have a limit. It's like right now we're only doing one. Once the first run is sold, then if there's enough interest and we make enough money, we know we can get the fabs together to do another run.
yeah,
But we're not just gonna just have people just buying whatever the fuck we want, because like I
yeah,
said, this is something that a lot of people were looking forward to.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen those. I mean, they look like the clear shell Game Boys that they used to sell way back when. Um, Especially that purple one. Reminds me of the
Oh, you
OG
mean the
Game
Game
Boy
Boy
Color.
Color, the purple Game Boy Color
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
nobody had?
um, actually, I was the rare one that had a Game Boy Color clear shell purple one. Um,
Yeah, I had a red one.
uh,
Actually, I don't know why I'm using past tense. I have the OG version of every new version of the Game Boy. Like I have the old Game Boy, the gray brick. I
yeah,
have a red Game Boy Color. I have the purple shell, like clear shell Game Boy Advance. I never got a SP. Um, because I was like, I have a Game Boy Advance. Why the fuck would I buy another Game Boy Advance?
yeah.
Like, there's nothing new being added to the SP except a backlight and a clamshell design.
Well,
Then I
the
have the
backlight
OG
was.
DS. What?
I mean, the backlight was better than what you could get in the store, but it wasn't really anything. I mean, there was those rare Game Boys that had like a real backlight, but it
Yeah, but
wasn't like
those
a
Game
real
Boys
backlight.
you had to import from Japan because they weren't sold here, or you had to get a modded Game Boy, and I wasn't about to have my shit. Look, man, I didn't have money. I had to
Yeah.
have what I had, and I wasn't gonna give it to somebody and let them mod and fuck up my shit. Yeah, sure. See what else? I had the old. I don't know why I'm using past it. I have the old DS, the one that's backwards compatible with all the Game Boy games.
Yeah.
Um, I have the OG DS, I mean 3DS, and the new 3DS. That's the
Yeah.
first time I actually updated to a new, slightly better model. That's because I played my old 3DS to the point where the left R button trigger was just busted.
Yeah.
It's like, I gotta get a new one. It's time to upgrade.
So, yeah, it's an annoying situation. There's also a story
Yeah,
about the. I guess there was some sort of collaboration with Pokemon and I think Google or something like that for special items you could buy, and it was completely ransacked, and people scalped the
yeah,
hell out of everything, and it's just kind of like,
yeah. This is why they shouldn't sell shit online. It should be like, oh, okay, you want to play this? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. If you want to get this, do what Nintendo does for their Nintendo Live, where you have to go and get the ticket.
Yeah.
Therefore, you get one ticket. It's not live, or you put in for the thing. Like that would be better than the shit they've been doing. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.
Yeah. 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 Um. This sort of thing has always been a thing. Like I remember back in the '90s where people were going crazy over Beanie Babies.
Oh,
You know.
oh yes, Beanie Babies. But you know what? I remember before Beanie Babies, Cabbage Patch Kids, and
Oh.
Furbies.
Yeah. I
Cabbage,
remember
no,
Furbies.
Furbies. Before Beanie Babies, it was Furbies. Before Furbies, it was Cabbage Patch Kids. Before Cabbage Patch Kids, it was the Star Wars toys. Like,
Yeah.
basically, there's always going to be something that someone's going to be losing their damn mind about, where, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. 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 It's really bizarre. Um.
It's bad. It's like, why? Like, for real, bro. Like, there's no reason for this.
Yeah.
Literally, there is no reason for this.
I think what was it? McDonald's or Burger King? No, it was McDonald's. They ran out of Happy Meals because of, I think it was during the Pokemon craze. Um, I thought it was Burger King that had all of the Pokemon stuff unlocked. But anyway, it was during the Pokemon craze. I think it was like special Pokemon cards where it's just. I remember Burger King with the gold Pokemon cards. It's just
Oh, with those special uh, restaurant only Happy Meal cards.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
People went crazy over those. It's like
I
what?
mean, the thing is, uh, like in the games, they have these people who are Pokemaniacs, but that's a real thing.
Yeah,
They're legit Pokemaniacs in real life.
yeah. Now speaking of collectibles, apparently there was a statue company that was making statues for based off of Sony IPs, and and they Sony contacted them because they weren't pleased with how they were handling the statues, and they were told to destroy them. And the company can't went out on Twitter, not calling it X, call it Twitter. Went out on Twitter and announced this, and you know, and the kicker is that these statues people already pre-ordered them. They were already pre-ordered. They're ready to, they were just waiting for the stuff to ship. The company said that Sony told us to destroy all of them for whatever reason, and they gave the contact information of the person that they were in contact with to basically, uh, uh, basically harass them for their money back because Sony already retrieved the royalties. So the story is actually pretty wild, and I don't think it's entirely true. I think it's just
No, no, because if Sony did that, they already took the money. Then once you take the money, like you have to provide a product.
yeah,
That's just how that works. You
yeah,
don't get to be like, oh, we took your money, we don't provide anything. Ha, got your money. Fuck you. It doesn't work that way.
yeah, yeah. I was hearing the story, and I was just kind of like, I think there's some, and this company's known to be shady. They're called like headless statues or something like that. Uh, they've been known to be they've been known to be pretty shady. Like people have said they got, they ordered a statue, got it super late, or they didn't get it at all, or whatever.
I mean, how much are these statues?
I have no idea. They're probably one of those boutique statues that are like
Yeah.
anywhere between 100 to two, three, $400
Okay.
statues.
Because I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not defending these people, but I'm going to just say this. Okay. The thing that people need to understand about like statues and those special, really badass models that they have is this. The thing about it is that, like, let's say you go to a let's say you go to like a what's it called, a con, okay, and they have those awesomely badass, overly detailed models and statuettes and action figures. Those things are specialty made, and they take time.
Yeah.
They are expensive, and they take time. Um, and if you go to a toy fair, which I've been to toy fairs because I live in DC, and sometimes they'll have like an extension of the toy fair at the Washington Convention Center. Um, you go in there and you'll see some of the most detailed pieces. But if you ask how much they cost, they're like on the higher end of the spectrum. You're looking at a grand,
Yeah.
$1,200,
Here's a
1,500.
picture. Here's a picture of one of the statues.
Yeah,
Um,
these aren't as articulate as some of the ones that are grand, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're like not 300. They're between 150 and $300
yeah.
a pop,
Yeah.
and that's just, like, because I mean, contrary. Okay, when I was a kid, action figures were for kids and statuettes and shit like that. Now, the people who have money who can afford the really nice shit are people who are adults who have disposable income. Kids can't
Yeah.
afford this shit. That's why when you see those mock action figure things that they set up to show off how badass their action figure is, and then like it's like, oh yeah, this is so bad, and then they get it, and it's like, oh, this is this is very much like less badass than what we actually had. It's like, no, the reason it's less badass is because like the actual, like the actual like we had to cut so many costs to get it to be um profitable to make this.
Yeah. Yeah.
People always forget that. They're like, no, but it's now, like I said, I'm not making excuses for their bullshit. I'm not saying, oh, how dare they do that, but I'm just saying that, there's probably something shady going on there because, like I said, it doesn't make sense that Sony would take the money and run. Personally,
Yeah.
what I think happened is that they took the money and
Yeah.
Sony was like, well, show us your work. And they were like, well, like we spent that money on X, Y, or Z and not actually creating a viable product, and we're gonna have to go to our people and go to the people who gave us money and ask them for more money, and they were like, yeah, we ain't doing that.
Yeah. It's called game. The company's called Gaming Head. Um, uh, yeah. So the company Gaming Head they were ordered by Sony to destroy these statues of their various IPs. And it's just like when I was hearing this, I was like, man, something don't sound right about this because it's just kind
Yeah,
of like there's
there's
so many
probably some
legal issues.
yeah, there's probably some shady shit going on. Um, and I I don't have the issue is that like I don't have a command of the information.
Yeah.
So because I don't have a command of the information, like we're only seeing a very small part of the whole. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be like, "Oh, they did this." It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Sony didn't come out with a statement. It's only their it's only their side that we're hearing. So it's just kind of which is odd. Um, I'm not saying because it might not even be a I'm not I don't know. So we're just only hearing one side of the situation. So be interesting to see this where this ends up. Um, anyway, you have a free topic.
Um, I mean, my free topic was well, I would say I'm going to save it tomorrow, but I'm not going to begin. I'm going and have a I'm going out to eat on a social engagement, so no cast for tomorrow. So I guess I can bring what would have been my free topic to something else. Let's see. This is something that I wanted to talk about. It doesn't really have anything to do with video games, but I just thought it was interesting because we see this all the time. Um, One of the biggest issues that we see is people who don't really like something being in charge of making a new installment in that IP, and then it turns into trash because people are like, I can't believe this didn't work. I can't
Yeah.
believe this failed. So this happened. This legitimately happened. Okay. See slash film. As we all know, a few years ago they tried to reboot Star Trek, and they got J.J. Abrams to do it. After he kind of shat the bed on that one, he then went to go fuck up Star Wars, which he did.
Yeah.
you know, he fucked up Star Trek, and then he jumped over to Star Wars. Well, apparently his big thing was that he wanted everything to be his code word and his code phrase for making these films was rock and roll. When
Yeah.
asked about why he did this, he said, "For me, it was giving people a way into this world in a way it's never been done. By doing this film with the kind of resources that certainly a Trek film has never been allowed to have before. By delivering on a level of visceral, fast-paced action that Trek has never really had as its signature. What we came up with was a story of incredible characters, of incredible potential, of real optimism and wonder, and treated in a way that provides a kind of an emotional connection, visceral excitement, visual spectacle that Trek had never seen before." Abrams would admit in a 2013 interview with Jon Stewart on The Daily Show that he never got Star Trek, feeling that the characters were too cold and distant. He watched it with friends and it wasn't his bag. Trek was too philosophical for him. He always preferred Star Wars with explosions, guns, and archetypical heroes and villains. Stewart, meanwhile, reacted in the natural fashion that any Trekkie might. I stopped listening to you when you said you didn't like Star Trek. I know what happened because your mouth was moving after that, so I'm assuming you apologize. um, so here's my thing. Why the fuck would you get someone to helm a franchise who doesn't like
The
or
franchise.
understand the franchise?
Yeah. Yeah.
That I
I
mean, I'm
don't
not a
think so.
scientist, and I
I
don't
don't
know
think.
everything about everything,
Yeah. It's
but
like
I'm
I know.
reasonably certain. No, go ahead, sir.
I was gonna say I know people that like both Star Wars and Star Trek. Um, and also it's just like I mean, it seems to be happening a lot. It's like you have you know you have somebody ahead of the whole Star Wars thing that doesn't really like Star Wars. You have people ahead of the Star Trek thing that doesn't really like Star Trek. It's like
Yeah,
what are you doing?
I mean, like, would you put? Okay, let me ask. You open a steak restaurant. You cook
Yeah.
steak. Would you put a vegan, someone who does not understand the compulsion of people who like steak to eat steak, in charge of cooking steak?
Sure wouldn't.
You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that shit.
Yeah.
Why? Because there is a certain there's a certain way that they think about steak that is going to preclude them from making good steak.
Yeah.
All right? No, not these people. And everyone's like, oh, well, everyone was like, when he left Star Trek and went to Star Wars, well, oh, he gets it. Fucked up Star Wars too. Clearly, this man doesn't understand fuck all of any of the IPs that he's actually been in charge of.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that Star Trek movie, that reboot was trash.
Yeah.
Hot buttered ass. You
I
know?
thought, I thought it was okay, but the second two movies were awful. I thought In Darkness, and then the third movie was just like, what the?
Yeah. Well, Star Trek in the Darkness was Wrath of Khan, but done shittily.
And they were warned not to do it, but they didn't.
Yeah, yeah. All the Star Trek fans were like, please, please, please do not. Because Wrath of Khan, if you're a Star Trek fan, is like Empire Strikes Back. It's one of the best. It's one of the darkest Star Trek films. It's also one of the best Star Trek films. And so, like, Kurtzman's like, hey, what should I do now? And they were like, you can do whatever you want. Just please, for the love of God, do not do Wrath of Khan. Just don't. Just leave it alone. Because you are not talented enough and creative enough to pull off remaking that film. You don't have the chops for it.
Yeah, you're not the guy. You're not the guy for this.
Yeah, yeah. It's like like I learned to play the saxophone, right? And in music, they have this thing called chops, which basically is like, do you have the skill to play a particularly difficult piece? And sometimes you just don't have it. It's like, someone's like, hey, don't try it. You don't have the skill level for it. Leave it the fuck alone. Alex Kurtzman's like, challenge accepted. And, oh, God, diarrhea in the bed. That's how bad Star Trek Into Darkness is.
Yeah.
There's a part in that movie where I literally mentally just went, fuck you. I stayed because I was too far in the movie. I was 2/3 of the way through, but I was like, fuck you. No.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Fuck your mama. Fuck your daddy.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
I remember seeing that movie in college because they were playing it, and I was just like, this movie isn't very good.
No, I mean, it opens up. It's like the first act of Star Trek Into Darkness, aside from those fucking terrible looking Klingons they had, not that bad. Not that bad. But there's a moment in that movie, in the third act, where they do an inversion of one of the greatest sacrifices in Star Trek history. From the original Wrath of Khan, where basically, like, the Enterprise is fucked. They had to jettison their warp core. They need a new warp core, a new warp crystal dilithium crystal put into the chamber in order to get warp speed to get the fuck out of there, because Khan's just activated the Genesis device. And like, basically, like, McCoy's down there, and he's like Scotty's about to go in there. He's getting in the suit. He's like, Scotty, if you go in there, it's flooded right. Even with the suit, you're dead. And he's like, Spock's down there. He knocks out Mr. Scott, and then he knocks out. He passes on his mental engram over to Bones, which is kind of like an in-joke, because Spock and Bones are always going at each other, but they have respect for each other. And then he goes in there, and he puts the new thing in there, and he's basically sacrificing himself for the good of everybody else. Okay, and they get warp speed, they fly off, and Kirk thinks Scotty pulled off another miracle, but he's like, oh shit. He's like, thanks. He's like, yeah. So Scotty, I see you got the engines back online. And Bones is like, no, Scotty didn't do this. He goes down there. You need to come down here. He goes down there. Spock is in the chamber. He's all his face is all fucked up because he's got radiation burns. He's like, Spock. He's like, I have been and will always be your friend. He's like, why, Spock? He's like, well, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. He says, "I have been and will always be your friend." And he says, "Live long and prosper," and he dies. It's an awesome scene. It's well shot. It's one of the iconic scenes in Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
And then they pulled that same inverted bullshit in the new and in Star Trek Into Darkness, but it was unearned.
Yeah.
It was completely unearned because these people had none of that chemistry whatsoever.
Yeah.
Zero chemistry.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. God dang. That movie just something about just felt significantly anticlimactic. Um,
Yeah.
and also the third movie felt like it was missing a whole lot of something.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because it was rock and roll. You know, because in the future they wouldn't have come up with new music. They all listened to the Beastie Boys. Because J.J. Abrams likes the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, that was obnoxious.
Therefore, here's how shoddy J.J. Abrams is. He puts the Beastie Boys into Star Trek, right? Not even the song that would make most sense to have them play for the Beastie Boys to play in a Star Trek movie, which is Intergalactic Planetary, not Sabotage. It's inter.
Yeah.
Fucking moron. Sorry. J.J. Abrams is, you know, woefully inadequate for what his job is. And you know, he's someone who has he has all of this. He keeps on getting chances even though it's unearned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, he got a Superman movie from Warner Brothers, but he fucked up Star Trek and Star Wars. Why are you giving him Superman?
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my free topic. Just keep people who don't have a healthy respect for the IP from being in charge of the IP. To bring it back to video games, I mean, we have that issue with Nintendo right now where the guy in charge of the Paper Mario games doesn't like Paper Mario.
Well, yeah.
It's like, yeah. It's like, why would you do that?
Yeah, that is bizarre.
You know, Miyamoto said some shit one day that it blows my mind. He's like, yeah, well, we don't want people who like to play video games making video games. I'm like, that's just fucking stupid.
That doesn't make any sense.
Like, I mean, who is more qualified to know how to make a good video game than someone who likes to play video games?
That had to be a mistranslation. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Now, I'm not saying that you should be fanboy. You should be such a fan that you don't think about the practicalities, the impracticalities of the practicalities of doing certain things. But god damn, I was like, and this is why some of those games are very hit or miss.
I think so. I think what he's probably trying to get at was he doesn't like people that are too, too safe when it comes to systems. People that are maybe a little bit more creative when it comes to making games. There probably was a better way of saying that. Just didn't.
No, I think that was the point. Like they don't want people to think of everything as to be gamified, so then people will be truly creative. But the problem is, not every game needs to be a reinvention of the fucking wheel. Sometimes you just want what you want. And you don't want no weird shit. Oh, we need to be creative. Why do you think Star Fox has been shit for so many years? Because they always want everything to be a new thing. It's like, look, man, just make a good fucking game, all right? Stop trying to do all this innovative, gimmicky shit and just make a good game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like we needed to because notice, the more gimmicks they add to Star Fox games, the shittier the Star Fox game is.
Yeah.
Think about it. Star Fox 64, the original Star Fox, it was the 3D graphics. Star Fox 64, it was the 3D graphics and the Rumble. And to me, that game suffered a little bit. Like, the original Star Fox is a solid B. Star Fox 64 for me is like a... It's like a C plus. You know what I mean? I don't, because it's trying to do it's trying to do too damn much. It's like all range mode. All range mode sucks in that game.
Yeah.
Now, if they hadn't tried to make it into a showcase for Rumble, all range mode could have been focused on to be a better experience.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, we got to focus on the Rumble and getting Rumble to feel good. And I'm like, but if you don't have Rumble in Star Fox, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, no one's missing anything without Rumble on Star Fox 64. And then, Star Fox, what was the other one? The one made for the GameCube, Star Fox Assault.
Yeah. There's Star
That
Fox
game is
Adventure,
just what?
And Star Fox Assault. Yeah.
Yeah.
GameCube
That game was
Star Fox.
I mean, that's 2/3 of a good Star Fox game, but then they added, hey, we want to have on foot missions with these shitty ass controls that made it not fun at all.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to fly my ship. No, now you got to get out and run around with these awkward ass controls. I mean, they were really bad. And then they did Star Fox Command, where you know what we should do for a game that's about flying aircraft and nimbly dodging attacks and shit? Use a stylus to control your ship. That's great.
The stylus
Trash.
is like a terrible, like any game that is focused on the stylus primarily, just
Unless you were playing an RPG or a puzzle game, the stylus was trash.
yeah. Maybe Canvas Curse, because I heard good things about Canvas Curse.
Maybe. But that game was more of like a puzzle game than a traditional,
Yeah.
Kirby game. But hey, let's keep it moving. Star Fox for the Wii U. Star Fox Zero.
Yeah.
It's just it's basically Star Fox 64. Except now, you gotta pilot a little shitty little robot.
Yeah.
Like, drop a little shitty little robot out to go into little holes and press buttons and shit. I'm like, you do realize this throws off the flow of the gameplay, right?
Yeah, they were using recycled stuff from Star Fox 2.
But they had to use the gamepad.
Because people were bitching that they weren't using the gamepad. Now,
And I don't want to hear people say Platinum didn't know how to use the gamepad effectively, because Wonderful 101 was amazing for second screen asymmetrical gameplay.
Yeah.
With the gamepad.
Yeah, you really can't play that game on anything else. It just doesn't work.
No, it's not.
Try.
So I don't want to hear that shit. Oh, well, Platinum just fucked up. No. They were forced to use the gamepad in that game, and to its detriment, because, like, Star Fox, like, here's my opinion. The original Star Fox, in my opinion, is the best, because it only had one gimmick. everything else was relatively solid. Okay, the
Yeah.
gimmick was 3D graphics. It had great music. The controls were decent enough. I realize now that there was a lot of slowdown with that game, but you could kind of forgive it because it was the first game. Like, look, if you look at the other 3D games that were on consoles at that time, it still was smoother than a lot of those other consoles. Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't want to hear that shit. Oh, this is the frame rate. I'm like, okay, go play Hard Driving on the Sega Genesis, and then tell me how shit. Star Fox is like buttery smooth compared to Hard Driving, which is going like 6-7 frames per second, and that's if you're lucky. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that
Yeah.
shit. Okay, oh, the graphics. But yeah, that's my opinion. That's my that's my you know. I'm just saying, don't put people who don't have a healthy respect for an IP in charge of that IP. Because if you do, don't be surprised it just sucks.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Hence why we're not going to get another good Paper Mario ever. Say goodbye. Look, play that new that new re-release of Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. That's the last good one you're gonna get for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because Color Splash and Origami King were shit, as was Sticker Star.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but Sticker Star.
Well, want to give her a sign off and we'll call it a night.
All right, this is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters. I will not be having a cast tomorrow, so we will convert back to our normally scheduled programming next week. I'm going to try and record some gameplay footage of me playing Starfield. I had to look at what was in my queue because Starfield is fucking amazing. Um, been having fun with it. Downloaded a ton of mods that basically change the algorithm so you can actually add a ton of engines, like a metric ton of engines to to your ship. So basically, I'm pimping this shit out. So that's gonna be fun. So yeah, I've been building a super ship. Um, yeah. Also been jacking people's shit. I'm like, someone attacked me. I'm like, I'm stealing your ship, man, because it looks cool. It's my ship now. Break yourself. It's fun having a group of mercenaries land, be like, we're gonna kill you, and then kill all the dudes on the ground. They run into their ship and kill the captain and steal their shit. I'm like, oh, it's a nice ship. It's mine now. Break yourself. It's like you done fucked up, man. That's all I gotta say. You done fucked up. Especially, I've discovered my playthrough. What I really like using when I'm facing normal people is a shotgun. Like if you're in tight corridors, nothing like running up on somebody and shooting them point blank with a shotgun. You don't have to try that hard with a shotgun. A shotgun isn't gonna let you down. A shotgun's just like, so you want to play? Okay, let's play. Shotgun.
Yeah, just mow through enemies.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think I did the first part of the main quest where you have to go to New Atlantis, and the lady's like, so, we can move on to the next part. I'm like, I have stuff to do, and I just left and just started flying around, just doing random side shit. I'm like level 19, haven't touched the main quest yet, aside from that. I haven't even joined a faction. I'm just flying around, just doing random shit. Scanning planets, making outposts. fighting people. I think I might do the Mantis quest because that's a pretty badass ship. But yeah, but anyway, yeah. So I'll upload some gameplay footage of that tomorrow. Maybe talk about me, talk about some shit while I'm uh, playing it. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna try to get play that game this week. So I haven't gotten around to it. Just been focusing on other stuff right now.
All right,
Uh,
man. You gotta do what you gotta do.
but anyway, this has been another episode of Project Console. Hope to see you guys here next week. Have a good week, have a good weekend, and have a good life. Later.
All right, man.